Congratulations and welcome. If you're watching this, you've most likely just adopted or are beginning to use Mural, a tool well suited to spread design thinking. And if you're an advocate of design thinking, all the better. And if things are going really well, your organization may have made design thinking a priority, perhaps even supporting it with a full-fledged transformation program. However, if you're not so lucky and happen to work in an organization that's new to design thinking, getting your people on board may be a real challenge. Internal resistance to change, lack of incentives, or conspicuously absent leadership support can create seemingly insurmountable challenges to spreading design thinking. But take heart, you're not alone. For the next 10 minutes or so, we at Territory would like to offer you some support by sharing 5 ways we've reduced roadblocks in spread design thinking, all without anyone knowing it. Now, we're not guaranteeing everyone will experience the same results we have, and we've had our struggles. But if you're new to design thinking, these are definitely for you. If you're a seasoned practitioner, you might even walk away with some thought-provoking tidbits. But either way, we'd like to help you avoid common pitfalls and take charge of spreading design thinking. But before we jump in, let's take a moment to ensure we have a common understanding of the subject. Broadly speaking, design thinking is a methodology. Not a linear methodology, but a methodology nonetheless, comprised of a selection of activities intended to help individuals and teams align on problems and arrive at better solutions. The activities include framing the opportunity or problem, researching to understand the human context of the problem, ideating with multidisciplinary teams to develop potential solutions, rapidly prototyping and testing those solutions with users, and incorporating what you've learned from those users to launch and observe, then repeat the process. Simple, right? Well, for those familiar with design thinking or who intuitively grasp it, sure. But for an entire organization that has always done things the company way, they may not be as receptive. And unfortunately, there's one more twist. Design thinking is a bit slippery because it isn't always used for the same purposes. How it's applied to consumer products and services is very different from how it's applied to developing business tools and processes. This flexible application is a feature of design thinking, not a bug, which is to say it's a good thing. But it's this very advantage that contributes to ongoing misperceptions. Questions and concerns are commonplace and to be expected. They often reflect a desire to maintain the status quo, a siloed or incomplete view of the problem, or a fear of loss of productivity. Fortunately, each of these can be addressed, and we'll return to them later. Now it's worth mentioning a couple of barriers that might take more than our helpful insights to overcome. IDEO's Michael Hendricks identified them in a Fast Company article addressing criticism of design thinking. First, people assume design thinking is a one-size-fits-all methodology. We were just talking about that. And unless you practice it in an agile fashion, your approach might not fit others as well as it fits you. As Hendricks says, if you make something rigid and formulaic, you could absolutely fail. Remember, if you want to spread design thinking, you've got to be flexible. The second barrier Hendricks identified is organizational culture. Design thinking is experiential and participatory, which means that people must feel comfortable sharing ideas and considering alternatives to the norm. If your culture frowns on open expression or play as a part of work, you might be able to make inroads within your team or adjacent teams, but making broad organizational adoption might be significantly more challenging, or even out of the question. Coworkers must trust each other and feel comfortable enough to share daring ideas. Finally, before we dive in, we'd like to share why we at Territory think Mural is well suited to help spread design thinking. There are, of course, the obvious reasons that we all know. It's a visual remote collaboration tool and functions both synchronously and asynchronously. Perhaps less obvious is that Mural is a great forcing function. As we adapt to new tools for working with clients and internally accommodate for the rapid shift to remote, we're forced to also look at how we work. Mural goes hand in glove with these changes, and in our opinion, makes them easier to adjust to. Mural allows people to focus and collaborate without some of the challenges of traditional group dynamics. No one can see how you're coming up with your ideas in your pajamas or while you're doing laundry, nor are ideas immediately attributed to you. This relative anonymity can be seen as freedom and supports the democratization of ideas. Additionally, while design thinking is traditionally facilitated, Mural allows it to be conducted in discrete, digestible chunks with clear directions so that team members can focus on the exercise rather than trying to disrupt and jump straight to a solution. Okay, with that said, let's jump into our 5 ways to spread design thinking without anyone knowing. First and foremost, stop talking about design thinking. Fortunately, Design thinking doesn't need to be understood to work. It just needs to be embraced. We all know how annoying people can be when they ramble on about a funny movie that you haven't seen. Talking about design thinking is no different. So stop trying to convince them and start doing. If you already have a process, there will undoubtedly be some overlap. So focus on applying a design thinking activity to supercharge one of the existing steps. Don't make it about the design thinking process, like validating the problem. Reframe the conversation around developing solutions with better outcomes for the business. But most importantly, don't get trapped in trying to explain the benefits of design thinking. Simply get started and engage people in the experience as soon as possible. In this example, we did exactly that. We turned the project planning process into a co-creative exercise that immediately grabbed our clients' attention. This engagement encouraged greater participation. We explained what we were doing in terms of their desired outcomes, which helped them lean into the process. Even if our plan wasn't absolutely perfect, and it did require their input, this engagement alone got them on board. It's worth noting that Mural provides a great opportunity to walk clients through a very clear path, which they can access to review anytime they'd like. The second tip? Slow down, Tiger. This is all about patience. Instead of trying to create and run a full end-to-end design thinking program, identify a single topic or point in the process where you could make the most impact and focus on developing just the right exercise for that. If they need to get things done quickly, this allows you to be extremely responsive, and your work might even accelerate development of the solution. And for those who object to additional learning and reflection, remember to focus on building the activity directly into the existing workflow. As better results are generated, more time can be devoted to incorporating the next element of design thinking. Mural is excellent for this. The industry is already complaining of Zoom fatigue, so instead of an 8-hour workshop, in this example, we created an engaging 90-minute exercise to allow people to focus and quickly identify existing challenges. Should certain challenges warrant greater attention, our next step would be to dive into it, but it's not required. Mural provides a great opportunity to develop a single exercise, even from your existing process, that your people can complete easily and asynchronously. Remember, part of the strategy is to engage people as quickly as possible. Playing the long game naturally leads to our next tip: know your audience. We do this all the time for our customers, but how often do we apply it to ourselves? Understand your team and get them working on what they're good at. If you're meeting stiff resistance because they think ideation is nothing but blue sky wild imaginings, consider not starting with an opening brainstorming session. People are usually very willing to do the things they enjoy and in which they have talent. If they say they already know the problem or even the solution, explore their solutions and work backwards. Create pre-work that enables them to demonstrate what they know while asking them to think about their assumptions and how they know what they know. This enables you to open the possibility that they may not know as much as they think they do, and allow you to point out areas of overlap with the responsibilities of other teams, opening the door to greater collaboration. In this example, we worked with a product team to identify with their customers and demonstrate how much they really understood their needs. We incorporated actual customers into the evaluation process, which led to the team refocusing on a more narrow set of needs. Narrowing and creating focus is essential, and it's at the heart of our next tip: own your playground. Get to clarity by using visuals and focusing on a single topic or specific question. This is all about doing your homework up front. Prepare your team by synthesizing and creating specific materials for them to respond to. If they already know the problem, put it in a design thinking context and share it with them for review to ensure they all agree. Often they don't. And by doing sense making up front, you're saving the team a great deal of time in open discussion. While you might not feel empowered to do this, you might just be surprised by how much they appreciate the head start. This type of approach seems purpose-built for Mural. In this example, we assembled a draft customer journey from earlier discussions, simply dropped it in the Mural, and asked the team to identify any missing steps. We knew they needed to see the customer journey in order to identify areas in which they provided value to their customer, so we made the sandbox and got them working in it. Finally, don't release, socialize. Soliciting feedback is critical to design thinking. Feedback provides multidisciplinary input when you cannot include everyone and ensures that no one is blindsided by your efforts and subsequently objects just because they need time to consider it. Others may not own your part, but they may be impacted by it or shape what it needs to look like. While it feels like a no-brainer, getting feedback and iterating while you're working isn't as common as you might think. And don't be tempted to rush or conversely wait to share until it's perfect. You'll avoid the embarrassment of saying things like, "Oh, we didn't think of that." And you might just find other teams latching onto and building upon your good ideas. In this example, we needed specific, broad feedback from a very diverse and very large group of stakeholders. Mural provided an easy way to navigate them through the information they needed to know before queuing up specific questions. We also used the space to collect and store all of the feedback so others could see it as well. And as an added bonus, just a reminder that Rome wasn't built in a day. Design thinking is experiential, which means it should be approached as a practice rather than as dogma. Be realistic, incorporate design thinking where you can, but don't expect change to happen overnight. It may take a while, but if you keep clarifying and framing questions, trying new things, and learning and adjusting, it's the surest way to gain traction and begin to see results. And eventually, you'll develop not only a repository of go-to templates and exercises, but you'll also expand the amount of design thinking your organization is doing. And if you keep at it, you might just be creating an end-to-end design thinking case study for your very own organization. So to recap, our 5 ways to spread design thinking without anyone knowing are: stop talking about design thinking, slow down, know your audience, own your playground, don't release, socialize, and remember never to give up. Now, sadly, just because something works doesn't mean everyone will do it. You may be facing an uphill battle, but remember, design thinking works. If you make the effort to strategically shape how you engage your team and continue to learn and adjust as you go, others will eventually join you. Thanks for your time, and good luck spreading design thinking. To learn more about applying design thinking within your organization, check out our page on Mural Playmakers or visit us directly at territory.co.